What if everything you wanted was also the thing that broke you? Not in a dramatic, movie villain kind of way, but slowly, quietly, in ways you don't even notice until it's too late. Elon Musk is the most successful person alive right now. By almost every measurable standard, wealth, influence, innovation, he's at the top. And yet, if you've been paying attention over the last few years, something seems off. The outbursts, the erratic decisions, the feuds, the way he operates like someone who genuinely believes the normal rules of human behavior don't apply to him. Now here's what most people do at this point. They pick a side. They either say he's a genius and everyone else just doesn't get it, or they say he's lost it, he's a villain, he's dangerous. But both of those takes miss something much more interesting. What if success itself, real, massive, unprecedented success, does something to the human mind that we don't fully understand? What if getting everything you want changes you in ways you never agreed to? That's what this video is about. Not Elon the hero, not Elon the villain. Elon is a case study in what happens to the human psyche when it reaches the very top. To understand where someone ends up, you have to understand where they started. Elon Musk grew up in Pretoria, South Africa, and by most accounts, it was not a happy childhood. His father, Elon Musk, has been described by people close to the family as a deeply difficult man, cold, critical, controlling. Elon himself has said, and I'm paraphrasing here, that his father was someone capable of making you feel terrible about yourself for no reason at all. And this is where psychology comes in. When a child grows up in that kind of environment, where love feels conditional, where approval is always just out of reach, the brain adapts. It has to. It builds patterns, coping strategies, just to survive. And one of the most common ones? Radical self-sufficiency. If the people around you don't feel safe, you stop relying on them. You turn inward, and slowly, you build your identity around what you can control. Your mind, your work, your output. Elon Musk was known to be a voracious reader as a kid. Books became his world. He would disappear into science fiction for hours, not just for entertainment, but because those stories offered something his real life didn't. The idea that things could be different, that the world was bigger than Pretoria, that one person, with enough intelligence and willpower, could actually change things. That belief that one person can change everything became the operating system of his entire life, and it drove him to do extraordinary things. But operating systems have bugs. He moved to Canada at 17 with almost nothing, made his way to the United States, started companies, failed, started again, Zipto, X.com, PayPal, Tesla, SpaceX. Each one of those is its own insane story. But the pattern across all of them is the same. Elon would enter a space where everyone said it was impossible. Electric cars? The industry had tried and failed for decades. Private space travel? That was for governments with trillion-dollar budgets, not entrepreneurs. And he would just not accept that. There's a concept in psychology called a reality distortion field. It was originally used to describe Steve Jobs. The idea is simple. Some people have such strong conviction, such unshakable belief in their vision, that they start reshaping the beliefs of everyone around them. They make the impossible feel possible, and it works. That's the wild thing. It genuinely works. SpaceX landed a reusable rocket when the entire aerospace industry said it couldn't be done. Tesla went from a startup that was weeks away from bankruptcy in 2008 to the most valuable car company on Earth. So here's the question no one really asks. What happens to a person when they're proven right again and again, when every expert says no and they say yes, and it works? What happens to that quiet voice inside, the one that says, maybe I'm wrong? There's a pattern in psychology, often called an ego reinforcement loop. It's not an official clinical term, more something researchers have observed in high achievers over time. Here's how it works. You take a risk, and it pays off. Your brain logs it, my instincts are good. You take another risk, it works again. Now it updates, my instincts are very good. You keep winning. And over time, your brain starts to believe something dangerous, that your instincts are almost always right. And once that belief takes hold, something shifts. Criticism stops feeling like useful input and starts sounding like noise. People who disagree don't feel like peers anymore. They start to look like obstacles, and the line between "I trust my judgment" and "only I can see the truth" gets very, very thin. Psychologists have a term for what this can become. At the extreme end, they call it acquired narcissism. Not something you're born with, Something that develops over time, shaped by environment, by power, by years of being told you're exceptional. And here's the uncomfortable part. From the inside, it doesn't feel like arrogance. It feels like clarity. Like you've moved past the need for other people's validation. Like you've reached a level where the usual rules, being diplomatic, considering others, slowing down, start to feel like inefficiencies, like things that hold other people back. Look at Elon Musk's acquisition of Twitter. He paid $44 billion for a platform many analysts valued at around 20. Within weeks, he cut most of the staff. He made sweeping product decisions, driven largely by his own instincts. And in the process, he pushed away advertisers, users, even regulators. People called it chaos, and maybe it was, but from his perspective, he was moving fast, cutting the fat, doing what he's always done. The problem is, what works when you're building a rocket doesn't always work when you're running a social platform with hundreds of millions of users and messy, complicated human dynamics. But how do you tell that to someone whose entire identity is built on the idea that they see what others can't? Here's where it gets genuinely sad. Not in a dramatic way, in a quiet, human way. Elon has had 6 children by 3 different women. His relationships, personal and professional, have a pattern of intensity followed by rupture. People who were once his closest collaborators end up estranged. Former friends give interviews describing someone who changed. His own son, Xavier, legally changed his name and cut off contact. Publicly, that's not a tabloid detail, that's a data point about what life close to Elon Musk is actually like. There's a concept called the loneliness of the summit. It sounds poetic, but it's real. The higher you climb in wealth, in status, in perceived importance, the harder it becomes to have genuine human connection. Because every relationship gets filtered through power. People want things from you, or they're afraid of you, or they're performing for you. And the skills that got you to the top, the relentless drive, the intolerance for inefficiency, the willingness to override consensus, those same skills make genuine intimacy almost impossible. You become surrounded by people, and completely alone. Elon has alluded to this in interviews. He's described himself as someone who doesn't need much sleep, doesn't really take vacations, finds it hard to switch off. He's talked about feeling the weight of the missions he's taken on, like the future of humanity, actually depends on him specifically getting it right. That's not a healthy belief. That's a burden, and it's one he seems unable to put down. Now here's what I want you to take away from this, because this isn't just about Elon. The dark side of success isn't reserved for billionaires. It's a pattern that shows up at every level. The entrepreneur who built a great company and can't stop micromanaging it into dysfunction. The athlete who peaked young and never figured out who they were without the sport. The parent who worked so hard to give their kids everything and ended up giving them everything except their presence. Success, real success, has a way of amplifying whoever you already are. If you're grounded, it gives you more resources to do good. If you're insecure, it gives you more power to protect that insecurity. If you're driven by fear, fear of failure, fear of being ordinary, fear of the father who made you feel small, success doesn't heal that fear. It just gives you more sophisticated ways to run from it. Gabor Mate, who's written extensively about the link between childhood experience and adult behavior, argues that a lot of high achievement, at its core, is a coping mechanism. We build things, we accumulate things, we prove things, because somewhere deep down, we're still trying to answer a question that was planted in us before we were even old enough to understand it. Am I enough? And the hard truth is, no amount of external success can answer that, because it was never really about the success in the first place. So what do we do with all of this? The answer isn't to kill ambition. Ambition can do extraordinary things. What Elon Musk has built, whatever you think of him, has genuinely pushed things forward. But there's another version of this story, one where success and self-awareness exist together, where the drive doesn't come at the cost of everything human. That version asks for something most high achievers never pause long enough to do. Look inward, really look, not to slow down, not to stop, but to understand what's driving you. Because if you don't know what's chasing you, you'll spend your whole life running. You might win every race and still lose. If this made you think about success, about psychology, about yourself, subscribe, because that's exactly what this channel is for. Every week, we take a real story and uncover the psychology behind it. And if you haven't seen the Nokia video yet, it's right there. Watch it. You might see this story very differently after that. I'll see you in the next one.